What is going on, everyone? Badger here. Should have liked and sub, and let's get into this. We have had some absolute victories lately, as far as it's really hard for them to obfuscate and hide the ideology and the agenda, and certainly the results of pushing those things. And thankfully, now people with actual clout, people with actual experience in the industry are coming out, and they're basically confirming everything we and others have been saying for years at this point. And so shout out to Clifton Duncan Jr. We saw him the other day responding to Zachary Levi and his comments about how biased the entertainment industry is and how people on the left are obviously in control. And if you come out as right wing or in support of a conservative candidate, you are of course blacklisted or put on an email chain, or you don't work in the same way you used to work. And thankfully he had on a former Disney executive to explain not only Hollywood's collapse, but this can be extrapolated to comics and video games and every bit of entertainment. And yes, it is the BlackRock, the State Street, and the Vanguard. So former Walt Disney Television executive Monica Harris explains exactly what's going on. And her explanation is what we've been saying, but hearing it from someone on the inside, so much more better. This is very much similar to a Thomas Mahler or a Matthew Karch or someone in the video game, a Grums, who has worked there or currently working, who can dime out and explain exactly what's happening. And so here we go. She began by pointing to Target. And we know what they did over with Target with the trans and pride stuff, specifically in children's sections and right up front. I think the reason we see no course correction is the same reason we see Target market items. And I think we know which items I'm talking about that clearly don't appeal to customers or consumers. I think when you have trans Cheerios and stuff like that, you're making a statement that has nothing to do with your audience and its tastes. What we've seen in the corporate world, and I am going somewhere with this is Harris talking, what we've seen in the corporate world is that this fastidious and slavish adherence to ESG, environmental social governance, as we've talked about before, principles, which are really just DEI in practice and in products and in hiring in the corporate world. So these corporations are pursuing these marketing tactics and sales tactics with products that are doomed to flop and do flop. And this would be the Concords, the Dustborns, pick a Star Wars movie, pick a Star Trek project, Halo, all of the things that weren't adapted properly because of the DEI and the SG initiatives. And that lowers shareholder value, but they continue them nonetheless. And the deeper I've been digging, and especially her work at something called FAIR, which is the Foundation Against Intolerance and Racism, which I guess she'll talk about later. She says, but the deeper they dig, they notice that it's happening because the same core group of companies are largely funded or have shareholder stakes, majority shareholder stakes in Fortune 500 companies and the S&P 500. And this is, of course, what we've all talked about for years now: BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. But when these three companies and their subsidiaries dominate the board of directors and dominate the ownership of stock, then they literally are in the position to tell the companies to adhere to whatever guidelines they'd like. So if the DEI is an initiative that these majority shareholders would like companies to pursue, that's what they'll pursue. And we've seen companies like CD Projekt Red, even though their CEO just tried to say this was not true, we've literally seen their hour-long ESG capitulation video stating that this decision to do DEI is a direct result of their shareholders. And their shareholders were from the likes of a State Street, BlackRock, Vanguard, etc. Because if not, they'll face the wrath of the people who can yank the money, yank the loans, yank the funding, because it's all about the money. And unfortunately, that adage is true. You always just follow the money. So she closing, rounding out here, she says, and I think this very much is the same is true in Hollywood. DEI has swept through. Now, we know it is true, but it's nice that someone in the know is making these connections. DEI has swept through that place. The Academy Awards, the nominations are only available to films that hit certain quotas. You have to have a certain number of people who are Black or or BIPOC, trans, non-binary, whatever. It's totally the antithesis of what artistic work is about. That is also what we've heard from Moon Studio CEO Thomas Mahler say, that it is the antithesis of art to put DEI chains on them. It's what Elon Musk has been saying, that DEI kills art. She continues, but they have to do this because I think Netflix was an example. If they don't adhere, and Amazon would certainly be an example, if they don't adhere to these guidelines, those loans, the funding is going to be pulled. So again, they are between a rock and a hard place. That's the untold story, in my opinion. Now, unfortunately, this story has been told many times, but it's been told by the Gary Nerdrotics and the Heel versus Babyface and the Maulers and the Film Threats and all of these other channels that have just, a Critical Drinker, that have just been pushed off as toxic alt-right grifting channels. So here you go. Here's someone in the know, a black woman, by the way, if you wanted to throw that in, straight up saying what it is. And they finish out here with the Larry Fink, which I mention all the time. And that really is, someone asked him, how do you change the culture of a company? And he said, to change the culture of a company, you have to see the change that you want echoed everywhere. And unfortunately, in this case, the change that they want is of, well, we all know what it is because we've seen it everywhere. It's
the message.
And so that change needs to be everywhere. That means movies, TV shows, books, video games. Everywhere you look, that change is, because the company they want to change, in this case also, is the country. And if they do that, well, we won't be living.
You know, we're living in a society. We're supposed to act in a civilized way.
Yes, instead it's going to be something quite different. So, yeah. Love to see things like this. Shout out to Clifton Duncan Jr. for getting this interview. I hope more people speak up, more people in the know that actually work in these companies that can tell you exactly what you're dealing with, because they've gotten almost every single franchise at this point with no signs of slowing down. Now, the ESG money might be drying up, and they may be reformatting it to come at us from a different angle with,
what's today's secret word?
Yeah, so we know that they're still around, and the ESG money as it was is drying up, but there are still plenty of incentives for DEI initiatives, and it will be there. Don't worry. In the video game department, they will still be
for a modern gaming audience,
making games for them, even if they fail. So keep vigilant, but this is an absolute win. So let me know what you think about all this. Make sure to like, share, and sub. If you have done that, thank you. If you're going to do that, thank you. And
well, bye.